Hello and welcome. This is the first video that I will have made about John Deere 1010 tractor repairs. So the tractor that we'll be working with in this video and in probably any other videos is a John Deere 1010 RS model. Today we're going to be focusing on the hydraulic system, and the problem that I currently have is I have a leak in the system under here. This front housing here is cracked and it is allowing hydraulic fluid to leak out onto the transmission housing. So today we're going to go through the complete disassembly, and we're going to tear down the forward section to replace a leaking seal here and hopefully JB weld under here on the cast iron. And then we also have a leaking seal back here. And so we're going to try and get that fixed. So I have several tools that I already know I'm going to need because I've tore this down before. I have a DeWalt 1/2 inch bit set that works sometimes. You are going to need a hammer, a wooden block, a flathead screwdriver like this. You might need a thinner one. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I have an adjustable wrench here. This is particularly for 2 bolts on the hydraulic fluid return or send line. And so those are an interesting size. I use this just because it's easier. A pair of pliers, and then a wrench set. Size 5/16 to 11/16 is fine. We'll mostly be using smaller than that. You're also going to need a jug if you're planning on saving your hydraulic fluid, which I am because I just changed this fluid. And then also a pipe or some kind. This is for torque. So when we go to take this bolt off, it takes a good amount of torque to get that off. So I have this to help give me some extra torque on my wrench. Let's get started. The first thing you're going to want to do is drain the hydraulic fluid. So you want a 3/8 sized wrench, and then you also want to have your bucket of stuff, your empty bucket ready to catch. It's at least 2 gallons in this system, so depending on how much fluid you have lost. So next step is removal of the seat. Now this tractor has 4 bolts that hold the seat down. This is the standard seat, not the deluxe version. And I will go ahead and mention that this is I should have mentioned this before, this is an early model tractor, so I have a dash shifter. And it is a dual hydraulic system, so there's 2 hydraulic cylinders that you can control remotely or together. The next step is going to be removing the seat. These are going to be 9/16. So we've got those 2 out, and with that said, it should just lift right off. So this is it. So this is the hydraulic system of the tractor. It's split up into 3 sections, not including the lines and the pump. The pump is under here. 2 control levers. This is used to turn on or off dual or parallel control.
Hey folks, I wanted to add in a quick segment here that explains this selector valve a little bit better. So the way this works, if you have the dual hydraulic system, is that there's 2 cylinders inside this housing, and this is essentially a cross flow valve where if you push the valves in, hydraulic fluid is going to flow to both cylinders evenly. There's a bolt that you put to connect the individual lift arms together, and then that gives you more lift power out the back of the tractor. If this valve is not pushed in, which is accomplished by unscrewing the wheel here and then rotating the metal bracket that pushes the valve in, then your control levers will independently control the 2 different lift arms. That is an option if you have this model of hydraulic system.
So yeah, so the next step, we're done with that for now, is going to involve this adjustable wrench, and we're going to be removing the hydraulic oil lines connected to the tractor. And the line I'm removing now is the inlet or sending line, so the pump sends pressurized liquid through this line and it comes back through this line. Alright, so as you can see, there was a little bit of excess oil left in there. That's normal. The second one is in here. It's a different size, and so mine comes off pretty easily. There it goes. There's a little bit of fluid coming out of the pump now. Now, the next line we're going to remove, and this is another thing I forgot. So to remove this next hydraulic line, you're going to need a 1 1/2 inch wrench. You have to have a wrench for this. Anything else is not going to work. Because we are removing this guy right here. This is a little tedious. Now this one is going to take a while to get out because there's not much room in here to really get around and do anything. So I've gotten mine to the point where it's ready to come on out, I think. Yeah, so mine's free. You just want to pull this out slowly until it comes loose, just like this. So you can see there's a visible space here where it's no longer connected. You're going to need a hammer and our wooden block. So now that this is loose, we're just going to tap right here is where you want to tap. Till it comes out. And that line is actually lower than the drain cock we removed, so it is going to have oil in it when you pull it off. You just grab it, slide it right out. Pretty easy. And again, there is going to be oil. Now all the hydraulic lines are disconnected, and so at this point, if you wanted to operate the tractor without the pump, you would just need to remove the pump and you can safely run the tractor. You don't need to run the tractor if there's no fluid in the hydraulic system, because that'll destroy the pump because there's no lubrication getting into the pump gears. Next step is we need to remove the 3-point hitch system. Now there are two things. So there's this one and this one. Now ideally you could just remove these two pins and take the system out. So depress the button on the pin and pull, and tap it with a hammer if you need to. And it may help if you grab the 3-point arm and lift up. That'll give it a little freedom to move around. And that's one arm disconnected. So for mine, we're going to remove this whole arm. You would have to do this eventually anyway because we're going to pull this rock shaft arm out. But for right now, we're going to go ahead and get that arm off. You're going to need a 15/16. So we're just going to remove this. Okay, so there's that. So now we need to remove this arm. So once you've gotten it off enough, you can just wiggle it and it should come right off. But the next thing you're going to want to do is remove the 4 bolts that hold the hydraulic housing down. Should be 3/4 size. So now that we remove those 4, you should be able to lift up and move around the system, which is something we're going to have to do because we're going to take the rock shaft out. So it's pretty easy to do this. You literally grab and pull, wiggle, and with that, it is going to come out. But yeah, this thing's heavy. Now that that is out, you can look inside and see in. Now my issue is that this seal is not all the way seated. Basically what I did is I took this screwdriver and I just slowly tapped until I got it seated up against it like it should. Alright, that's done. So, finish that. Now, that issue is fixed. Next issue we need to fix is in here. Again, I have a broken seal. And so we are going to now remove the front cover off of this hydraulic system. One here, which is a pain. Here, here, here. These are 7/16 size bolts. Okay, so I removed the 6 bolts. There's nothing holding this forward housing on. As you can see, it comes right off. So at this point, we're going to pull back. You want to pull both levers to the rear as long as you can. Okay? But we need to get those 2 pins out. You can pull this forward if that helps, but for now I don't think it will. So this is where those pliers are going to come in handy. Hopefully you can see those pins, by the way. But you just want to reach in and compress the pin with your pliers. They've been pretty easy. And pull out the pin. Do not lose that pin. You're going to need it later. Basically, the goal here is to remove the pin. I'm going to use a screwdriver to help me out with the little pressure. Once you get that done, you're good. Once that's free, that one's fine. We're just disconnecting that main bar. So we have one more step before that front cover is ready to come off. And that is you need to remove the 3 bolts that attach the load and depth control mechanism. And now this front end is completely independent. Lift it up and out of the way. If this thing would stop getting stuck. It is heavy, so be careful. Okay, now as you can see, I've removed the second one. I'm going to reinstall that just so we know where that goes. And so this is the forward section of the hydraulic system. This is the rear section. We're going to work on the rear section later. My concern right now is this front cover, because I have a crack in here somewhere and we have to fix it. The next steps is going to be to remove this inner part. So for this next part, we're going to need a few additional things. We're going to need a one, you're going to need screwdriver, wrenches. Again, I've got my paper towels. You're also going to need a Sharpie for this one, because it is not labeled where which gears these need to go in, but it's right here. Draw another one, and there's another one up here, and then on the second one here, which isn't going to want to lift up, it should be in a, yep, I see it right here. So now there are 3 bolts that hold the control housing. They are not, these are 1/2s, and you're just going to loosen them. There's 3, one here where I'm loosening. This guy here doesn't want to move. So he's the longest. Then you got this guy down here. Alright, so there's the 3. They're off. The next step is to remove the snap ring in here, and this is the last thing that's holding this whole quadrant on. So it's right here, and you're just going to pry on him until he comes out, just like that. There's also should be a few washers behind there too. You don't want to lose them. But once you get him off of this gear, you should be able to pull and it should come right out. There it goes. And out she comes. Boom. Now there is a seal on here that I incorrectly installed last time. So my original line was here. Okay, once you've got that done, here's your parts. We'll put them all on this paper towel so they stay fairly clean. You've got the 3 washers and the snap ring. Don't lose those. Got that right there. Okay. And with that, I have gotten this front cover removed and disassembled. Reassembly is pretty simple. The first thing you're going to want to do is reinstall this seal. It goes in here and so that is seated. That seal is nice and ready to go. So at this point we're going to go ahead. Remember to keep an eye on where your lines are. I'm going to make sure those are lined up. So we're going to stick this in the hole. Should slide right on in. We're going to take the first, but basically we're just going to go ahead and put it on top of on the gear. Okay. Then we're going to take our 3 rings and the snap ring. We're going to put those on, and we're going to put our second guy on, and I'm going to line this up. So the next step is to slide this all the way back. And we want to put our rings on. These are spacers. It's their only job. And then this snap ring needs to come on. So what you have to do is you need to reinstall one of the side bolts here. And what that'll do is hold it in place while you apply enough pressure to get that snap ring back on. And so we're going to So after a little thought, I was not satisfied with the gasket I had, so I went and just made a new one. Position the gasket in place. Get those reattached. You want to line up the gasket, put the bolts in the holes, and tighten them down as best you can. Reminder, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bolts in this system. Okay, so once we've got all those back on, we just have one more major thing to do, and that is we have to reinstall the rocks. You need to remove the 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then there's actually a 5th one under here. 5 bolts that secure the rear housing on. They are 13/16 size. They are varying lengths, so make sure you remember where they came from. So once you have removed those 5 bolts, there is nothing holding this rear section on, so it should be fairly easy to get off. Ta-da! Now it's heavy. You definitely don't want to mess up this gasket, so be very careful peeling it off. So you're just going to pull. If you look in here, you can see the hydraulic cylinders. So that's them right there, those 2. And what happens is pressure builds up behind them. It pushes forward and it causes these things to rotate, which raises or lowers the rock shaft. So these have to be on the rock shaft. So we're going to pull these 2 pins off. But no, I just got them off by hand. So after you get them off, the parts come right off real easy. So you're going to pull those 2 off and done. And if you ever needed to get these 2 cylinders out, you can take air pressure, spray it in here, push whichever one you want to come out. So take these, they're going to go right back in here. The one with this, basically just like this, okay? You guys see what's happening here, I assume. there's a specific gear so that this goes in the right way. There it is, right there. So there's one. The other one's there. So basically we're putting this in and lining those up. Alright, now we've got them at the angle we want. Okay, so you see how this gear, you want to find the gears and match them up, basically, is all we're doing. Almost there. There. We're going to take this guy, this is what was on the right hand side, holding that lift arm in place, and we're going to re-secure him. That way he'll catch it if it tries to fall out. We are going to take this. It goes on here like this. We're going to get our bolts. These are the two top ones. We'll just start with these. We're going to go ahead and put this on. Just get over here, rest it on the tractor, and just kind of hold it in place. Feed through the hole and try and get this thing reattached. Alright, so once you have all the bolts tightened back up on this rear section, you want to reattach the load and control depth arm, and then we are good to go ahead and reattach this lift arm. Now, one thing you want to make note here so that your lift arms aren't messed up, you want to make sure that this right lift arm is the same height as your left lift arm. Lift this up, get the heights as close as you can, and just wiggle it back on. Start going. You can see it's going to slowly crank the arm in. Just put your 4 bolts back in. We reinstalled both hydraulic lines. Just do the opposite of what we did before. And then you fill it back up with fluid. So we reinstalled our drain cock. This is the test cock. This is what you'll unscrew this and start filling in fluid until the fluid runs out of this, then close it. That's how you know it's full. Don't just fill it all the way up to the top. But that is it for the hydraulic system. The leak here is stopped. My leak under here is still giving me some persistent trouble, but get it eventually. And then, so that's it. Hydraulics are reinstalled, and that's all we got.